Well, Steven,
Derek!
are you ready for Marshawn Lynch as Raider head coach and Robert Griffin III as general manager?
So ready. That's going to be a great duo.
With the way that he's been making suggestions the last couple days, I'd say so.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Go take over the Commanders or something. Leave the Raiders alone.
We have a lot to get to,
Huh.
and I am a little surprised that we'll be talking about the firing of Josh McDaniels today. I did not see this coming, but here we are. We got a Raider game to react to briefly. We got a Niner game we'll react to briefly because those games happened and they are important. But since that time, a lot has gone on. We'll get to it all today. And we got a World Series going on right now, Steven.
Mm-hmm.
Bochy
Yep.
could be on his way to getting his fourth World Series, and this probably will go down while the show is going on. It most definitely will because we are in the bottom of the seventh with 2 outs,
Ooh.
and
Yep.
we'll see what happens here. But the Rangers are currently leading 1-0, and we got a Warriors game going on. Already playing the Kings for a second time, but no De'Aaron Fox tonight. We will update it all tonight on Just Your Opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. By the way, no hot sauce tonight. A lot going on, and also I've kind of fucked up. Looking over our scores, I realized that when I picked the Carolina game, I got 2 points, so we are currently tied. And I should have told you before the Raider and Lion game, but I failed to do so. So we will do the tiebreaker for the Titans and Steelers. Happening tomorrow. Derrick Henry didn't get traded. Neither did DeAndre Hopkins. Actually panned out well for them. But we will get to it all. Steven, before we get to all this stuff, how was Halloween? You were out last night with the nieces and nephews trick-or-treating. What'd you dress up as?
I was Bobby Boucher.
Nice.
I kept it simple. Dude, I bought a Bobby Boucher jersey for like $20.
Number 9?
Number 9. It's the Bourbon Bowl. It's got like the patch. It's all stitched on and everything.
Remember when Bobby Boucher showed up for the Bourbon Bowl, won the second half?
You remember when Bobby Boucher showed up for the Bourbon Bowl, did you?
I gotta tell you, Henry Winkler to that movie is the best part.
You think so?
Oh, I don't know, Grandma. I just hate him. I hate him. I hate him.
I like how Kathy, in the high heels. I like how Kathy Bates is like this serious actor who is played various roles and somehow plays this Southern Louisiana mom who thinks everyone's the devil and is just totally unserious about everything and calls football foosball. I think she's the best part of that movie.
Actually, I take it back. The best part of that whole movie is Brent Musburger and Dan Fouts. Wow, Dan. Did you figure that out all by yourself? Shut up, Brent.
It's very well done. Very well done by them too. Normally, these former athletes or broadcasters can be kind of dry. Like you remember The Longest Yard when Peter King was in the booth and they had like writers actually in the press box. Peter King tried so hard.
I think he shit himself.
Yeah, I think he just shit himself.
Yeah, Peter King and some other famous football writers in that.
They had Chris Berman in there too.
The best, Chris Berman. When he's with the other guy, the prisoner that's doing the broadcast with him, he's like, "Well done, Chris. Now give me your wallet." What? just the what from Berman makes me laugh.
Yeah.
So you were Bobby Boucher, and did you have a good time with your nieces and nephews, or just niece and nephew?
Yeah,
singular.
Yeah, had a great time. I mean, went out with a red Solo cup, had a beer as we're walking down the street.
Look at you.
Yeah. There was one though that was like. Jessie randomly comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, someone just gave me this Jell-O shot. I want you to, I don't want it. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Oh, whatever, fine. It's just a Jell-O shot." But they put tahini in it. So it was super spicy and I wasn't ready for that.
I'm not a tahini guy.
And that's why I was on the toilet a lot of last night. And that's why I was able to see the Josh McDaniels news and I wasn't able to sleep after that.
Yeah, whenever they do tahini at sporting events, I always think they go a little too crazy. Like, believe me, I love a good Bloody Mary, but you can't overdo it with tahini. A light rim and just salt. Tahini kind of, as you put it, Stephen, adds to the diarrhea. So, yeah, not great.
Yeah, that's I'm not going to be up at 10 o'clock normally, but it was tough sledding after the tahini.
And the Josh McDaniels news, which I'm still kind of shocked about. Before we get to that, let's just get to everything right now, Steven. Let's react to this Raider game kind of quickly. So Monday night, Raiders lose 26-14 to the Detroit Lions. And I will say Max Crosby, the defense, actually played a pretty good game. Max Crosby, very into it. He's from Michigan, right? Went to whatever his college was in Michigan.
Yeah, Eastern Michigan.
Eastern Michigan.
Same as Jimmy G.
Is he? Oh, yeah, that's right. Marcus Peters with the pick 6. The defense kept him in that game. The offense was utterly atrocious. And I think it's safe to say, I know a lot of teams have scored less points this season, but I think hands down, the Raiders are the worst offensive football. And it showed, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo. As soon as they get that turnover on who fumbled the ball, I think it was Josh Reynolds. I don't remember exactly. Ryan Splain, or was it Robert or Ryan? Robert Splain picks up the fumble, and then immediately Jimmy Garoppolo gives it right back, throwing into double coverage in the end zone. Just a lot of head-scratching plays. Where Jimmy was sacked 3 or 4 times before they turn it over on downs, checking it down to Amir Abdullah on a 4th and 22, whatever it was. But I know a lot of people still can't get over Jimmy Garoppolo overthrowing Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. His overthrow of Devontae Adams might be the worst overthrow I've ever seen in an NFL game.
Ernie's correct. Jimmy G was Eastern Illinois. Thank you, Ernie.
I thought, yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that was the worst game I've ever seen him play. Like I could say that with a lot of conviction, because after some of these interceptions that he would throw, the Jimmy Ono throws that he's known for, that the Ernies love to mention, he would always come back from that. And I don't know if anyone remembers that stat, but after the interceptions, he had like these crazy looking numbers. No, he didn't throw it outside the numbers at all. He didn't, couldn't throw from one opposite hash mark to the other. He didn't look like Will Levis did in his debut, where he's just slinging it all over the field. Like, that was the worst I've ever seen Jimmy play. And the Raiders defense, they did their job. They gave him every chance to get back into that game. I mean, think about it's 26-14. It's not like 12 points is an impossible, insurmountable number to come back from. And that overthrow from Jimmy, it's like, I think, was there 4.5 minutes left when he made that second overthrow? Yeah. It's like he completes that, it goes for a touchdown, then the whole ball game changes. That's when the defense gets a little momentum, maybe gets a stop, and then you try and go from there. But there was just nothing going on, and that's partially why I was kind of surprised at the McDaniels firing, because he didn't call that bad of a game. He had Devontae Adams wide open. It's just his quarterback couldn't make plays, but it's also McDaniels who chose the quarterback in the first place. So part of that is his fault as well. I just think as far as the X's and O's go, it wasn't his worst game of the season.
No, but it was pretty bad. And Devontae, couldn't hide his frustration. He threw his helmet up in anger, pretty much mouthing the words. He said, "I'm fucking tired of this shit."
Yep.
He tried to restrain himself as much as possible in the post game. And everyone's like, "Oh, he's going to get traded the next day." Like, that's not going to materialize. So yeah. And, I was ready to come on here and say they're the worst offensive football. It's the same old shit with Josh McDaniels. There's no more excuses, in my opinion. Steelers have one of the worst offenses in football, but they are operating with a second-year QB and a defensive-minded head coach. You got the Patriots. Again, a defensive-minded coach and a young quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo, I know he did not look healthy, and Aram makes a good point here that Jimmy can't be healthy. He looked worse than usual. That's true, but he hasn't been good for the majority of the season. For a guy that knows Josh McDaniels' offense pretty well, he's looked terrible, throwing a league-leading 9 interceptions. So they lose, and I was expecting them to not really do at the deadline. I was expecting maybe Hunter Renfrow to get traded. Turns out Hunter Renfrow was close to being traded to the New Orleans Saints. But Mark Davis nixed the deal because, in good faith, he told the Saints, "I can't tell you what's going down, but we're going to have some changes." And then the deal did not go to fruition because, as we've been saying, last night we got the alert, Josh McDaniels and GM Dave Ziegler both fired at 10 o'clock last night. On Halloween, too. Now, I know there's a funny report going around that Josh McDaniels dressed up as Mark Davis, and that led to the firing too, fortune cookie and everything. That is not true. I sent that to you, and I was like, "This is insane." And I was like, "No, I'm being had here. This is fake." It's an old Barstool thing, right? PFT.
Yeah, it's not even anyone trying to fool you. It's just literally PFT commenter making a joke, as he usually does, being sarcastic, just
Well, I
trolling.
fell for it, Steven.
I mean, it's Athletic Premium Plus content index or something like that is what he called the publication.
Yeah. So he got me.
Yeah, you got a lot of
But
people because everyone ran with that lawyer who posted it. It's like
yeah.
Taylor Twellman and that lawyer randomly posted it to their Twitter accounts.
Yeah, no, my little brother Nick sent it to me, and I was like, "This is not real, right?" And I was like, "Oh, this is fake, obviously."
Mhm.
Um, so when they made the Josh McDaniels hiring, well, first off, before the actual interview was going down, I kind of shot it down immediately, saying he's not coming here. They're not going to hire Josh McDaniels, and I was a fool because they did. And I didn't think Josh McDaniels really wanted this job, but he did. He left Belichick. I always thought he was waiting to take over for Bill Belichick. And then he got the job. He got Ziegler, and this was going to be a match made in heaven. They traded for Devontae Adams. They were going to make things better for Derek Carr, and everything has gone to shit. So, Steven, and I'll say this too. When they actually made the move to hire Josh McDaniels, I came on here and said, this is one of the best hirings the Raiders ever had. It is better than Gruden, and I thought it was going to be, and obviously it did not turn out that way. I will give my piece on everything. Steven, your thoughts on Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler both being fired last night?
We were both high on this move. I think everyone was kind of high on this move because it's like you're getting these two guys from the Patriots. Okay, they're trying to create this path of their own, trying to get away from the Patriot way. And, Josh McDaniels getting his second chance. He's learned after a decade. He's not going to make the same mistakes that he did in 2009. Well, we were completely wrong. I was surprised that it happened now. I thought they were going to let him just play it out till the end of the season and then just fire him then and go from there. But it's pretty clear that after everything that surfaced today, like McDaniels and Ziegler just continued to be a problem. Like their players clearly weren't bought in. It seems like Max Crosby, whenever he talks, it's not like about the team, about Josh. It's about like what he can do and his type of drive and his motor. You never hear much about Josh McDaniels. You never hear much from these players talking about they have full faith in their coach. None of that. We haven't heard anything of the sort. Like at least with other teams, they talk about their coaches in very high regard. You've never really heard these guys talk about anyone within the Raiders organization. They just talk about their teammates. Everybody wants to win. Shout out to Mark Davis for actually talking to his players and getting the opinion there, because it seems like that's really what put it over the edge. According to Rappaport, was the little players meeting that he had with veterans. And I'm going to assume that Devontae and Josh Jacobs were a part of that. And they're just like, nah, this isn't it. He has not built the type of culture that we want in this locker room. So I'm surprised it did happen now, but judging by the players, it had to, because they just can't go on for another half of the season just under this guy who they don't seem to buy into.
I'm not giving Mark Davis a pass for any of this, and I will get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was going to be a great move. I thought that he probably learned his lessons from what went wrong with the Denver Broncos, and clearly he didn't. Um, he came across egotistical and arrogant, and it just did not work, and it was terrible from the get-go. Honestly, from week 2 of last season when they blew that lead to the Arizona Cardinals, it all went downhill after that. And I didn't buy into the whole we got to rebuild thing, because when you trade for Devontae Adams from a playoff season the previous year, you're looking to build upon that. And I guess the expectation for them this season was to win. Otherwise, Mark Davis would not have made this move, which is kind of surprising to me because everything that went on this offseason did not really give a lot of confidence, I think, to Raider fans. And I wonder how the team perceived it. Do you think Devontae, probably Mark Davis, is kind of, a player's owner, kind of like Dr. Jerry Buss in a way? Do you think that Devontae voiced his frustration enough with these player meetings that he pulled a Magic Johnson and Paul West headed Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, I think so. I think, dude, I told you this from the start. It's Devontae you got to listen to. Like when he had that Ringer article that came out where he talked about Garoppolo and just, kind of hinted that this probably wasn't going to go well, hinted that he didn't like the move. Um, I have to only assume that it's him from there. Like you mentioned that word arrogance, and it really is arrogance that drove this entire thing. It was the arrogance that he thought that he could just get rid of Carr, replace him with someone else. Apparently Jimmy G wasn't his first option. Well, whatever, you still went with Jimmy Garoppolo. It was arrogance that made you think that he could be the guy that could just take over and turn Devontae Adams into an all-pro. Arrogance that they didn't feel they needed to add an offensive lineman, even though they still could improve in that area. Arrogance after with the way that he's just not really taking accountability for his poor decision making, whether it's kicking field goals, going for it on fourth down, just like we've talked about all the season, man, just no rhyme or reason at all for any of his moves. And the arrogance in which he started Brian Hoyer against Tyson Bagent. It's like the Bears are starting their rookie quarterback, and you're just out there thinking you can win with a veteran who hasn't won a game in 4 years. It's arrogance that drove this whole thing, and I think that that's arrogance that frustrated Devontae Adams. I think it's arrogance that frustrated Aram out here. I wouldn't be surprised if Crosby voices frustration too. Arrogance that frustrated Max Crosby. Arrogance. And I think that just bled over into the locker room, and it's something that just players don't, it's something that players don't respond to. Nobody likes an arrogant coach if it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like Kyle Shanahan, for example, he's an arrogant coach. We can all admit that, but you can't, you got to admit at least that the guy can draw up a damn good scheme and take down teams at times when his quarterback's not throwing interceptions or untimely situations. But like he's earned that arrogance, and McDaniels just did not earn any of it. And where did he earn it from? Freaking Tom Brady? I don't know. Like, I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah. I mean, when you are singled out in that NFL player report card for being I guess, I don't know, how do they describe him in that? Like a coach that doesn't really want the feedback of the players, just kind of tells them what to do. This is what we're doing. You follow me, and that's the answers.
Yeah.
Belichick could get away with that, obviously. But when you don't win on a week-to-week basis and your resume includes losses to Jeff Saturday, who came off the couch, coached high school football the week before.
Currently on ESPN talking about this now.
Yes, making a whole joke about it this morning. Tyson Bagent, who, hey, good for him. It's a great story, but you go out there and he's winning a game against your so-so defense, or so-so offense, I should say more. Blowing 17-point leads. Like it's all just accumulated to the point where it became kind of a joke. It still is a joke. And I know a lot of people are like, a lot of Raider fans are like, good for Mark to pull the plug on this. I got to be honest, guys. Don't fall for this clown. I'm sorry. But like, this is bullshit. He
created
in.
It.
Yes. Like he went all in to get Gruden and it blew up in his face. And he didn't answer any questions about that whole thing. And today he didn't either. Antonio Pierce and the new interim GM, his name escapes me at the moment.
Champ Kelly
had to go up there and answer questions. The Mark Davis, I could be wrong, Steven, but I did not see Mark Davis address the media today. Did he not?
No, all he provided was the written statement to the Raiders.
Of course he didn't. Of course he didn't. So, and I don't want to hear any more like, oh, he knows how to win because he bought into the Aces. Fuck out of here. That team, Becky Hammond, all those women are doing that shit. Mark Davis is doing a goddamn thing. All right? So I don't want to hear any more like, oh, good for Mark Davis to pull the plug on this. Fuck out of here. Mark Davis is a clown owner. And I know I'm saying that as a biased person because of my dad and everything, but he is. He's laughed at and mocked by the rest of the owners of the NFL. And this is another point of that. He got him to Vegas. Good for him. But this is another failure on his resume. So earlier in the season, he's telling all the fans, smarten up. He finally smartened up. And it's another bad move. And he could go out and get Jim Harbaugh and try to get, tank for Caleb Williams, do all this shit. But the reality is he has failed. He has failed as an owner. That's the reality.
And no fans were ready for that conversation last night because they were just so over the moon about McDaniels being fired that they forgot that there's one common denominator in all of this. And I've told you this on the pod. We've talked about it. I don't believe that this team's going to go anywhere under Mark Davis. Like, I just don't. I don't see him making the right hire. He has to be the one to fix this. I mean, look at what he's doing right now. He has to pay McDaniels the rest of the 4.5 years after he gave him a 6
and Ziegler
deal? And Ziegler too,
and Gruden.
Does anyone? They came to a settlement with Gruden.
Okay, never mind.
Does anyone really trust Mark Davis to just win, baby, to bring them back to commitment to excellence? Antonio Pierce is a great face for them right now because he's a Raider type of guy through and through. Brought a lot of chutzpah. I'm gonna go with that word, chutzpah.
Look at you,
conference.
Mr. Yiddish.
Right? I know, right? That's for you. But
thank you. I need it these days.
But and it's a great look right now, and there's changes, but there's one guy who's always there. There's one constant, and that's Mark Davis. He's not going to win anything. Like, I don't think so. What's his hire going to be next year? What's he going to go hard after Jim Harbaugh? How's that going to work out? No one knows what Jim Harbaugh is going to look like when he's a head coach of an NFL team again. He's involved in some sort of scandal right now that is just, well, it's kind of just Michigan being Michigan. I'm even seeing Deion Sanders' names thrown around. Deion Sanders.
Oh my God.
Like, right. They've just dropped 4 of their last 5 games, and he's like called on the NCAA to reimburse them for the jewelry that was stolen, even though they forgot to teach their players about insurance. It's like we provided all the necessary resources for our guys when they got robbed in the locker room. We provided all the necessary resources, like we provided them financial planners. It's just we did not teach them about jewelry insurance. Like, what? So
Raider Nation.
You know what I mean? Like,
you got to believe.
Right?
Like,
You believe me now, Paulie G. You believe me now.
I love Deion, and I love what he's doing with Colorado, but I don't think he's ready to be an NFL head coach. And I don't know. We were talking about Harbaugh last time when Gruden got whatever happened, what the official thing was, he left. So we were talking about that last time. I don't know if Jim Harbaugh could be an NFL head coach in today's NFL. He doesn't call plays, and that's a big thing with me, just me personally. If you're going to be an offensive-minded coach, there are exceptions, but I think you got to be in the playbook and dialing up the plays. That's just my opinion, man. Mm-hmm. I will say this. I am kind of surprised that Dave Ziegler was let go as well. Now, I know that they are a tandem deal. Ziegler is there because of McDaniels. Tyree Wilson, draft pick, not looking so great right now, but it's early. His career just started. I just, you could have given him a little bit more time, in my opinion. Now, was it, this is my guy and this is how it's going to be and we just need a clean house? Maybe. Josh McDaniels, it was evident that he was not cut out to be an NFL head coach. Dave Ziegler, I'm not so sure. I thought that they could have let him finish out the season, see if he wants to stay with this regime. Maybe they are looking at Harbaugh, and maybe that, he wants to pick his own. That's part of the problem, too. When you fire a head coach, some instances you can have it where the GM sticks around and picks the new head coach, and sometimes that's not going to work. So obviously Ziegler and McDaniels were there together. Also, Mick Lombardi, offensive coordinator, Michael Lombardi's son, fired today as well. So a lot of big changes.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Jimmy Garoppolo, benched for the rest of the season, supposedly. Aiden O'Connell will get the start, and I love this quote. When asked by just an anonymous person from Ian Rappaport, when asked, why is Aiden O'Connell starting the rest of the season? Answer, because he's the best quarterback on the roster. Well, if that's the case, then why didn't he fucking start the Bears game? Also, that's total bullshit, because Jimmy, with all his deficiencies, he's better than Aiden O'Connell at this point. But hey, you got to see what you got in Aiden O'Connell. And it's clear to me when I saw these moves, and Antonio Pierce, to me, everybody says they can want change, and I think Antonio Pierce said all the right things today. He's not Jeff Saturday, but this kind of feels like it's setting up to lose the rest of the season. I really believe now. They weren't in this mix before, but it feels like they are now. With Kyler Murray coming back to the Arizona Cardinals in a couple of weeks here, and the Bears making moves to get Montez Sweat, and I feel like they're not going to move off of Justin Fields quite yet. I think the Raiders are really up for. I think the Raiders are probably right now sitting in the best position to get Caleb Williams. And I saw him this past weekend. I'll talk about him more on the next podcast, but I got to believe right now, teams that are shitty have their quarterbacks, with the exception of the Minnesota Vikings. That's a whole thing with Kirk Cousins. But I got to believe the Raiders are in the best position right now to get Caleb Williams, and I think that's what the organization's going to right now.
Yeah. Will they have that big Williams energy or that big Penix energy? We'll see what the Raiders do there. But next 2 weeks, though, Giants and Jets. 2 very winnable games. Giants without Darren Waller, without Daniel Jones. What is Tommy DeVito starting?
No, Daniel. Oh, God, I love Tommy DeVito.
Hey.
Oh, I'm playing in this fucking game here.
Hey, I told you to run a screen. What are you doing running a go route? Hey.
I really wanted just some reporter to be like, boy, Tommy DeVito, man, it's funny how things happen in the NFL. Funny how. Huh? What, am I a clown? I'm here to fucking amuse you? Anyway.
My favorite thing was how the photo went around of him in the black tank top, and he had like a chain that said TD on it, and someone said he literally has a chain that says touchdown. It's like, no, those are his initials. He literally has initials on his chain.
His initials are TD, man. He's all set up for success.
Hey, what do you know? It's not a touchdown. It's my last name. It's my first and last name. Hey, what are you talking about here? Have some class.
I don't fucking shine shoes no more.
Have some class.
It will not be Tommy DeVito, Steven. Daniel Jones has been cleared to come back.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, actually, then the Raiders have more of a chance of winning there. It's going to be like the Cowboys at the beginning of the season. I think I could see the Raiders beating the Giants, beating the Jets. Everyone thinks they're riding high. Oh, we got our new team. We don't need Josh McDaniels. And then they come back down to earth. Like, I think something similar is going to happen like that with Titans fans this coming Thursday with Will Levis. Like, I think right now he's going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers tomorrow night. Like, I think he's going to come back down to earth a little bit. And, outside of making those big plays, maybe they were fooled into thinking that he's like the next coming of, I don't know, Steve McNair or something for the Titans. I don't know.
But like Warren Moon with those jerseys on.
Yeah, that's true. The jerseys that are banned, by the way. Where were we? Raiders. Antonio Pierce, Giants. I'm not going to make too much of this season. It's blown up already. Really, it is. Like, there's no point really in looking at it like that anymore. I through the first 8 weeks of the season, dude, I don't know, because it feels like I had the Bears in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. I had the Cardinals in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. I had God knows who else in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. And I thought the Raiders were totally out of it after they beat the Packers, because I was like, oh, you got a couple of easy games here. You got the Patriots, you got the Bears. This is not going to, hey, they got a chance here to actually maybe do something in the AFC. You see what the Chargers, what's happening with them right now? Nah, this is a lost season, man. This is a lost season. They just had to cut bait. I get why they made the move, but I don't really know what to watch for as to what to carry into next year. Like, maybe a little bit of hope, but I don't know.
Well, now it is a true evaluation season, if it wasn't before, and I truly believe that this is what they're trying to go for. Caleb Williams, I don't know what his whole deal is, but he's let it be known that one of the teams that he would like to go to is the Raiders. So just keep that in the back of your mind as the season progresses. Go ahead.
Oh, you know what you were talking about, Ziegler. That's something else too. You were surprised that Ziegler's gone. Seeing all the stuff that's come out about him, I'm not too shocked either. Like, I think ultimately it is just because they're a package duo, like you mentioned at the top. But I also think, like, the draft prospects, he came up and he came up through the NFL, really had to grind through these other jobs, these odd jobs like quality control guy and all these crappy jobs that nobody wants. And eventually he turned into a GM. But the one that I have a problem with is, Diamondbacks Corbin Carroll made a huge error. Rangers up 3-0 in the top of the ninth. Looks like the Rangers are primed here to take the World Series,
Did
especially
you
if
say
that,
primed?
especially if that, especially if that, especially if that closer Jose Leclerc comes in, or Leclerc, excuse me. But it's his draft strategy. Like Tyree Wilson, as far as I know, he was a miss. And you got picked up his first sack against
That's
the Bears.
early. That's early.
It's very early, but with edge rushers, when you know, you know. You know?
No, because Nolan Smith hasn't done shit with the Eagles yet, and I'm not ready to say his seasons or his career's a bust.
It's true. But other than that, like Tyree Wilson does not look like, okay, just grant me this. He does not look like he's worth a 7th overall pick at this moment.
Not currently, but I mean, we all draft evaluations bullshit. So I'm not ready to kill Dave Ziegler for that. They knew right away that Alex Leatherwood was not the guy for them, and they cut him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was just because it was guilty by association with Josh McDaniels.
Right.
They could have improved the quarterback position. I think a big reason why Mark Davis fired Josh McDaniels was because of Jimmy and how he looked. And I know he was partially injured, but it's not an improvement. And I'm sure he was conflicted about pulling the cord on Derek Carr. And maybe they're like, maybe we could have just, tried to groom him, and not groom him, but try to make the offense more conducive to him, or try to make him better, and instead of just like, he doesn't fit in this offense, get him the fuck out of here. And they could have upgraded. It's pretty clear. You and I bring this up, but I don't think a lot of other people do. In that interview with Pat McAfee, Aaron Rodgers let it be known that he was interested in going to the Raiders. And I guess Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler said no. They could have, I'm not ready to say this guy's great yet, but they could have drafted Will Levis. They could have looked at other QBs. And instead, they decided to roll with Jimmy and go with Aiden O'Connell. And pissed off Devontae Adams in the process.
I don't even know how I haven't even mentioned this part yet about Jimmy G. Look, I don't think Mark Davis wanted Carr to go out like that, but I think McDaniels convinced him at the time, like, dude, this guy can't run my offense. Like, we're not incommunicado here. We're not in sync. He's not hearing what I want him to do. Like, you got Adams as an all-pro. You got Jacobs as an all-pro, but we're not winning games because I got this guy under center who can't seem to make game-winning decisions. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get Tom Brady. Okay. I'm going to bring him in next year. Then obviously that fell through. So he convinced him probably that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be the guy. And as mentioned at the top, Garoppolo looked the worst, I think, that we've ever seen him. I don't think I've ever seen him look that bad in a Niner uniform. Like, I know he was bad, but he didn't look that bad. Like,
no,
he looked awful.
Yeah.
And the Jimmy O no throws that all the Niner fans are talking about, I get it, but he didn't throw nearly as many as he did with the Raiders. Like, he was just playing terrible the entire season.
Let me ask you this: Did anybody? It's been a long day. At any point last season, did Derek Carr play as bad as Jimmy Garoppolo at any point this season?
Yes.
The Pittsburgh game?
Pittsburgh. I'd go Rams.
Ooh.
I'd go Rams.
5-0 now.
Yeah.
Marcus Simeon. God.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. 5-0 Rangers. We will give you an update as soon as the Rangers probably pull this off and win the World Series. As far as the Raiders, I disagree, Steven. I think that, honestly, despite the fact that Derek Carr did not look well with the Raiders last season, I don't think at any point did he look as bad as Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's saying something with Jimmy knowing Josh McDaniels' offense. So the team just got worse. And it wasn't an upgrade. They didn't get better. And they didn't improve the offensive line. They had they had arguably the best running back in football, arguably the best wide receiver in football, one of the best pass rushers, and they could do nothing. And that falls squarely on the shoulders of Josh McDaniels. He couldn't find a way to incorporate Hunter Renfrow in the offense. He had to trade away Darren Waller. I'm sure this whole time, Mark Davis is like, questioning these moves while they're going on. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to question it. It's the Patriot way. They'll figure it out. These guys came from the Patriots. Patriots, Patriots, Patriots. And nothing looked like the Patriots because they kept losing. So I understand why he did this. But
I'm sorry,
I'm
Derek, but statistically, Derek Carr did look worse against the Rams. I just pulled it up.
compared to what game with Jimmy?
The last one. This last one. This last
And-
one that Jimmy played
And
against
what
the
was
Lions.
what was Derek's numbers?
Against the Rams, he was 11 for 20, 2 interceptions with a 36.9 passer rating.
No, I love passer rating.
Garoppolo was 10 for 21 with 1 interception and a 47 passer rating. So
Ooh,
stick that in your chutzpah and smoke it. Smoke it.
wait, you're just throwing all the Yiddish terms out tonight.
Just the one.
Was it the same one you say chutzpah before?
I just said chutzpah, even though it does not.
Yeah, it doesn't even
not
apply.
work, but whatever.
I'll say this too about Antonio Pierce being named interim head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He said all the right things today. I don't know if this was a real quote or not. Did Paul G tweet this out, or is this a Dove Kleiman special where he fucked up? My players are going to feel me. I need to feel them. It's not exactly what was tweeted out. Dove Kleiman had fun with it. He's trying to make it sound like Jack Black in School of Rock. No,
I got the video if you want it.
Of him saying it?
Yeah.
All right, let me hear it.
We had a good team meeting this morning. Had a full house. And I think I had everybody's attention. I had their eyes. I'm not a long-winded person. I'm not going to give you a dialogue or write an essay. I get right to the point. It's black and white. You know how I feel when I walk out the door. I've been around these guys for 2 years now as a linebacker coach. And I made my presence known both in the linebacker room, the defensive line room, the quarterback room, the running back room. I'm a former player. I touch former players. I can relate to them. I've done the same things they've done. I've walked the same paths they walked. I felt the same pain they felt. So there's nothing or any emotional ride or roller coaster that they haven't gone through this year or over the 2 years I've been with them that I haven't felt. And my personality, one last thing, my personality will come out and reflect on this team. And hope.
Yeah, that's not exactly the quote that Dove Kleiman, I'm a former player. I touch former players. They're going to feel me. I need to feel them. That's not what he said.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will say this about Antonio Pierce. He looked the part today with being a leader of men. And that is something that head coaches need to be, obviously. I think it needs to be 50-50 of play calling and leader of men. And I think Kyle Shanahan could do that. I think Sean McVay could do that. I think Mike McDaniel could do that. I think Josh McDaniels failed at that, where he really related to his players. It seemed to me from everything that was written and everything that was discussed, he was just kind of by himself. He was the leader, but he wasn't really leading. So I understand that. What I'll say about Antonio Pierce is, I didn't think about this last night, but this morning I did wake up and I'm like, didn't something happen with Antonio Pierce back in the day with the Raiders? And sure enough, I looked it up. Antonio Pierce, when the Raiders were playing the Giants in 2009, referred to the Raiders as a scrimmage team, that we could play with 10 guys, 11 guys, or just 10 guys that kick their ass. And he wasn't wrong, because I remember the Giants thoroughly kicking the Raiders' ass. But that was a quote that stuck with Al Davis and really pissed him off. And I know that that was a long time ago, but I don't know. This just kind of is weird to me. Also, Antonio Pierce, things, happen and people grow and mature. But also, Antonio Pierce at the same time is kind of responsible for what went down at ASU with all of those sanctions and what led to Herm Edwards firing. Now, it's a different situation. It's college football. He's in the pros now. I'm going to give him a fair shot. But this whole thing is weird to me when I remember Antonio Pierce talking mad shit about the Raiders back in the day, and now he's the head coach of the team. And it may just be because he was a fan. He talked about how he grew up at Compton and he was a Raider fan. But I don't know. This whole thing seems very weird to me that he was named interim head coach.
He did say towards the end of that article, because you did send me the quote, he did say that they need some guidance, somebody to pick them up. Maybe he feels he's that guy right now. The one thing for me with Antonio Pierce was, it's a weird thing that I Google searched, but I did. Antonio Pierce strippers. Because I remember something funny that came out a few years ago with Antonio Pierce related to strippers. So I searched that up, and the top thing on TMZ was he was at some grand opening for a strip club, and he made headlines because he said Eli Manning's not a Hall of Famer.
No, I didn't see this. So Ron makes a good point. I actually have not seen the clip yet. So I think David Carr on tonight's NFL Total Access was talking about how, I guess, he didn't want to disrespect him because he was a Raider fan growing up. Okay, no, that's fine. But I'm also saying this. I'm willing to see what the Raiders under Antonio Pierce looks like. But just don't want it to be like a Raider fan coaching the team. They need a coach. They failed. They failed on John Gruden. They failed on Josh McDaniels. They need to get this right now. It's been way too long. And I know that I'm not as invested as I was once upon a time. But I'm really just tired that in my lifetime, the Raiders have always just been a laughingstock. And I'm sure fans are tired of that too. And I'll also say, don't be fooled by dumb shit like the Marshawn Lynch video that was tweeted out today. I love Marshawn. Don't get me wrong. I love Marshawn. But that video, what was the timing of that? Let's save this video when there's really something wrong with the team, and we'll tweet that out to get everybody motivated again.
What was the Marshawn video?
There's a video of Marshawn Lynch talking about what it means to be a Raider. And that was, appropriately tweeted out today when all this shit's going on. So it's basically telling the Vegas crowd and all of Raider Nation, we're going to figure this thing out, guys. Once a Raider, always a Raider. And honestly, I personally got tired of that. And I don't blame a lot of fans for getting tired of that. Because the video, what is there to hope for right now? I mean, honestly, sometimes I think before the Monday night game or before what happened last night, should they have listened to offers for Devontae Adams? What are they striving for right now? To evaluate the whole roster and then try to find the best head coach and GM and do this whole rigmarole all over again? It's getting tiresome.
It feels like they've used their reputation as part of how they've convinced fans this is going to be that Raider team again that they had in the early 2000s, in the 80s, these badass silver and black teams where other teams feared them and other teams at the same time wanted to be them because they were so damn cool. All the sayings, all the Al Davis stuff, just win, baby. The flame that burns brightest is the will to win. All that stuff, the commitment to excellence. They've been hanging on to that for so long, but it's been 2 decades of just a mockery of an organization. That's really
not
what it's
calling
been.
Mockery.
And they're still going back to it. It's we know what this organization's about. We know the history of it. Great. You know the history of it, but this team hasn't been the same for 20 years. I want you to create something new. Bring something fresh. Stop hanging on to the past. It's sad at this point. I don't blame Mark Davis for that necessarily because his dad, after all, is Al, and he probably wants to get back to those days and feel like he is his dad, kind of living up to his name, but it's just not going to happen. They need
It's a funny way of showing it.
It's just, they need to do something different. And I'm not going to have any faith. Just Davis, you know what? I know the A's fans, that's their rallying cry right now is sell the team. But if I could wear a black and silver sell shirt and wear it to Allegiant, that's what I'd do next. Fire Josh McDaniels. That's going to be elevated to sell the team. Oh, there they are. Look at Boach.
Oh, I'm behind. Is this official?
Yeah.
Oh, he's not going to swing on that last pitch. All right, here we go. Texas Rangers have officially won the World Series. Bruce Bochy, in his first year back, wins the World Series. Steven, Giants fan, how's it feel?
Oh, I'm happy for him.
Well, that's not even a little bit of oh, damn, we let him go.
No, because that roster's damn good. And even Bruce Bochy couldn't bring back, even Bruce Bochy couldn't fix what the issues were with the Giants in that time. If he would have stuck around after 2019, if he did see eye to eye with the organization, like 2020 and 2021. I mean, 2021 they got 107 wins, but I don't know. I'm happy for him, man. I don't really feel any sort of way about that. I really don't.
No, I mean, no. Hey, good for him. A's fans got to deal with another World Series champ in their division, but good for Bruce Bochy. I'm happy that first year back, still getting it done.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yep.
I
Good
like
for him.
how the post game stuff too. Like everyone thinks that there's like all this secret recipe to what Bochy does in order to win. He's just like, there's no strategy. These players just play, and they're really good, and they play well. There's no strategy. It's just, we got great players. It's like,
Yeah.
we didn't do anything like crazy this series. I think that the Rangers were just a better team than the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks were fun. They were a fun story, but outside of Zach Gallen, they didn't really have a starter that could do anything. They had a good bullpen, but they just
Marcus
couldn't compete
Semien,
with
look at
Texas.
him. Good for him.
Good for him, man.
Yeah.
Look at that.
No, this is nice, and I'll say this to tie a bow around it. Somewhere Michael Urban is doing a really good impression of Bruce Bochy winning his 4th World Series because he did the best.
Yeah.
I'll end this with the Raiders too.
5th. Yeah.
They just need to they just need to get the next hire right. And whatever they decide to do, it needs to be the right decision. No more of as Mark Davis said when he introduced John Gruden, this is a big effing deal. Like it needs to actually equate to wins instead of just the press conference and you're getting Josh McDaniels. It needs to be something like you can go out and get Jim Harbaugh, sure. But you need to be confident that Jim Harbaugh can coach in today's NFL. And I don't know if he can. He had a chance to go to the Vikings, and they chose Kevin O'Connell over him. So just be like, I would even say maybe Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, is a better option than Jim Harbaugh at this point. You just need somebody that can coach in today's NFL, and Jim has been away from the NFL game for quite some time. I don't think he could just run and hide from this cheating scandal and go coach the Raiders. So that's my only thing to Raider fans is be wary if they go after Jim Harbaugh. I'm not sure that's the best decision.
I'm not either, but I also don't know what the best decision is. Like that's where I'm told you that's the worst facet of my game is understanding like who would be the right coaching hire. Cause I do think Jim Harbaugh could actually be a leader of men, which is what they need. But like you said, in today's NFL, where a lot of the analytics are used and the data is used when it comes to 4th down calls and field goals and all that sort of stuff. I wonder how he would translate there. And just like the idea of these offenses just being vastly different than they were a decade ago. Like, how would he compete with that? Would you really want to go old school? Would you really want to, go empty sets a lot and put guys in the shotgun and go, 3 wide receiver sets, 11 personnel or whatever? Like, what are you going to do? And as far as like another head coaching thing, I was like looking at the Bengals head coaching staff. You know what I want? If I think the Raiders should do anything, it's like try and be forward thinking and do what the Texans did. Find like a defensive coordinator maybe. And if he's a defensive minded head coach, then if there's someone in the organization that's maybe pulling all the strings that nobody really knows about, aka Bobby Slowick with the 49ers, now that he's offensive coordinator with the Texans and he has CJ Stroud playing pretty damn well, like go and find that. Be forward thinking. Don't hang on to the past. John Gruden was hanging on to the past. Josh McDaniels hanging on to the past. Jim Harbaugh, again, clinging on to the past. I don't want the past anymore. I want something futuristic. I want what the Falcons have with the mustached man named Arthur Smith, who's actually kind of proving that he's arrogant himself after benching Desmond Ridder this week and telling everyone they're stupid for thinking Desmond Ridder sucks. Like give us someone, something. I don't know, man.
I'll end with this. All these suggestions, I joked about it at the opening of the show, Robert Griffin. Man, the Raiders should just do Devontae Adams a solid and just, trade him away. The Raiders really need to think about hiring Marshawn Lynch as head coach. Stop. Like,
what
Devontae,
the fudge, RG3?
Yeah, like Devontae Adams, I think he wants to be a Raider, but he probably will consider greener pastures, maybe Jets, if he can in the offseason. He's going to stick it out because he didn't get traded, and I'm sure he wanted this move to happen. But just to do a solid to get Devontae Adams what he wants. Stop it. And also, I love Marshawn Lynch, but come on. Marshawn's not going to be a head coach.
Marshawn does not need to do anything where he needs to be on time. I've heard stories about him just being late to everything and being a total wild card as far as making appearances and stuff.
And
he does not like RG3. You want the Raiders to hire Marshawn Lynch? You think Marshawn Lynch wants to be a head coach?
Hell no, he does not want to be a head coach.
No, he does not. That's the last thing that he wants to do. He just wants to sip his Hennessy, eat his Skittles, and do the amazing Amazon stuff that he's doing because he is one of, if not the, to me, he is my favorite personality in sports media. I think he just brings such a unique, genuine, real vibe to everything that he does. He doesn't need to do head coaching. Like, he's perfect where he's at right now.
Yeah.
Just creating funny bits, Captain Black Sparrow on the Buccaneers pirate ship, all that different stuff, all those things.
I will say missed opportunity to go back to Applebee's when they were in Buffalo.
Yeah, total missed opportunity there.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. Ooh, this war game got close, 56-55. We will update you on that as that's going to halftime right now.
Ooh.
But yeah, Steven, Josh McDaniels era, forgettable, to say the least. And I think that his time as a head coach is definitely not happening again. He was the most coveted name for the longest time. He left the Colts waiting at the altar, gets the Raider job. Turns out, same old, same old. He's not worth it.
Just, do you think they've been set back a year?
The Raiders?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or do you think next year is just like, they can actually turn it around if they make a couple of draft picks and have a good offseason? Like, is there a turnaround that can happen next year? Or are they a year behind? Because it feels like they've been set back.
No, I mean, if they decide to keep all the talent they have, like, let's just say, like, Mark Davis is like, I never was going to trade Hunter Renfrow. Like, he's obviously a great talent, and we just didn't use him properly. Probably was conflicted about the Darren Waller trade just for a third-round pick. No, they have the talent. They need to build on it, too. No, it definitely can be turned around if they get the right quarterback in there and they get the right head coach, but it needs to be the right head coach and the right quarterback and the right general manager. It has to be the right moves. So don't give Mark Davis just a pass yet, everybody.
And one quick thing. Which conspiracy theory do you believe in here? That Bill Belichick just got both of his merchants of death to put down one of the teams that he just absolutely despises, and that's the Vegas Raiders, or they made this move so that they didn't get flexed out of Sunday Night Football, and then Mark Davis doesn't have to live with the last primetime game being that Monday Night Football game with McDaniels. Which one do you feel is a truer conspiracy there?
I like the first one because that makes it seem like Bill Belichick is Robert De Niro and Josh McDaniels is Leonardo DiCaprio from Killers of the Flower Moon, and they were just doing an inside job to kill the Raiders.
Yep.
Yeah. No. I mean those are great conspiracy theories. And by the way, the fact that the NFL kept that Jets Raider game, God, you're killing us. This is cruel. Like, it's enough for me and Steven to watch these games when no one else is watching. A lot of people watch football, obviously.
It's just you watching these crappy primetime games. I normally out on them.
Bullshit. All right. Shit, what else we got here? 49er game. God, we talked an hour for that.
I'll let you know with the Killers of the Flower Moon. No, it's made pretty apparent throughout.
No plot twists given away in that movie. We'll actually do a whole review of that next podcast on Saturday. As far as the Niner game, I think you and I were not very surprised. Bengals, offensively, Joe Burrow's back to being 100% in my opinion. Well, what are you laughing about?
Just your dad. I was listening to the call in the first quarter, and God, your dad just would not stop talking about Burrow lining up under center. He's only lined up under center six total snaps his entire season, and now he's lining up under center again.
Bob, that's crazy.
Well, he had a week off, Greg. I wanted someone in the background to say, well, they had a week off, Greg. He's probably feeling a little bit better than he was before.
But he's not doing the things that I thought he was going to do.
Jesse's become a kind of a fan of Tim Ryan, and just like she's just like, he does not let Greg have the call. And
no, he does not.
It was like
Ball
the
out.
Yeah, the Jamar Chase fumble in the first quarter, or the fumble that wasn't, rather, that was recovered by them. You just hear Tim in the background go, ball out.
If a fumble is happening during our Niner game, you best believe Tim Ryan is going to let everybody know that.
Fire, hot ball out.
No, as far as the game itself, Burrow looked the best he did all season, and that's what the Bengals offense is supposed to look like. And Brock is struggling right now. They are definitely attacking the middle of the field with him. When he throws passes down the middle, those safeties know where to go now. So I think you were onto something, Steven, when you suggested this a couple weeks ago, where Jim Schwartz kind of put the blueprint out there for opposing defenses. I think it's there. I think good defensive-minded coaches, Brian Flores and Lou Amarillo,
Onaramu?
Yeah.
I can't
Arumba.
Damn
Lou,
name right. Everyone else can. I can't get it right.
I know. And I should know this. I'm supposed to be the NFL guy. They know what to do when it comes to game planning against Brock Purdy. And everyone is grilling Steve Wilkes, saying that the defense sucks now that he's become the defensive coordinator. And everybody wants him to go down from the booth to the sideline. Let me just say that Steve Wilkes is not that type of personality. Everyone expects him, it's one thing to look the players in the eyes when they're getting the calls. I think Fred Warner wants some of that. I think that the whole team wants some of that. But I think also if you're looking for a fiery guy like D'Amico Ryans or Robert Saleh, Steve Wilkes is not that personality. And I think he's kind of getting a raw deal here. People forget all the defensive changes that happened. And they played pretty good offenses. Now, the Browns had P.J. Walker, but Kevin Stefanski could scheme it up pretty well. I think Kevin O'Connell could scheme it up pretty well. And I think that the Bengals are arguably one of the best teams in the AFC. So while the Niners are going on their 3-game skid, I would tell everybody, simmer down now. Calm down.
Do we just discount everything they did the first 5 games? Or do we just take everything that the defense did and just act like it wasn't playing up to that standard that their defense is known for? Like, just 3 bad games and all of a sudden it's fire Steve Wilkes. Like, Ernie's, I love you guys, but you sent us the DM with that little viral video of how many stunts that they're pulling. Well, I've heard that, but I've also heard that this defensive line is too one-dimensional and all they're doing is bull rushing. So I don't know which one it is. Like, apparently it's a mix of the two. It's just, in the end, the players got to make plays, and I'm just not seeing them make plays right now. Nick Bosa has been awful at setting the edge. Like, go back to that last game and watch what he did against Joe Mixon. Like, that last touchdown that Joe Mixon ran was probably the worst, but like, there was multiple times in that game where Bosa's just getting beat. He's just trying to get to the quarterback. He's not thinking.
Yeah.
He's not thinking run or pass. He's just thinking it's a pass every time. And Javon Hargrave hasn't been as good. In the other end, Drake Jackson is in the doghouse now. Yep. And the whole Steve Wilkes thing, I think I can agree with it a little bit, but I just don't think it's entirely his fault. I think you have to place at least some of the blame on the players. I'm just seeing way too much about it's only Steve Wilkes. It's only Steve Wilkes. No, like, it's not him. And the players just haven't made plays. And when it comes to the offense, I do think I was a little harsher on Brock Purdy when I texted you. When I went back and watched that game, he really did play pretty damn well under the circumstances, I thought, through the first few quarters of the game, for the first couple of quarters. Brandon Ayuk had a couple of drops. George Kittle had a huge one too. Like, Ayuk had 2 that just went straight off his face.
Yeah.
He made a couple of great plays, but there was also times where he could have made catches and he didn't. What's been made pretty clear to me, though, is this offense really does need everybody to make it work. You need to have Deebo Samuel to get the yards after the catch to open the middle of the field for Ayuk. You need him there. You need Samuel to be able to motion wherever, maybe run in the flat, take a linebacker out of the middle of the field, leave that open for, George Kittle up the seam or for Brandon Ayuk to run a crossing route. They did not have that. And Purdy has kind of fallen under this idea where it's like, oh yeah, he did make just a couple of bad throws. No, that was a terrible play in the end zone where he just couldn't make up his mind on the run pass option. It's like he said he should have just handed it off instead of running it. We're trying to float it to Elijah Mitchell. That was just a bad play. Then that second interception right after, again, just a product of being in that system and the defense understanding there's not really much of a threat other than Christian McCaffrey in the flat. So I just think they've shown that they're vulnerable, but again, they're 5-3. Like, it's 5-3. They're fine. Yeah. And then of course they made the trade for Chase Young earlier. One of the few teams that actually made a trade. It's a good one. Total low risk move. Gonna see if it's a high reward. Still need to wait to see if it's a high reward, because if they just let him go next year, then they're somehow going to get this 3rd round compensatory pick back. I love how everyone, by the way, is like an expert on compensatory picks. I'd love to get some insight as to why they get the compensatory pick whenever someone's like, hey, they're getting that 3rd round pick back. Why? It's compensatory. Well, why do they get it though? I'd love for anyone to explain that, actually, because I don't think anyone really knows. It's crazy how the 49ers are gaming this system.
Well, with that, it's just honestly like when a player leaves in free agency, I don't know how they label it, but for whatever reason, when players leave in free agency, you get that pick back. Just kind of like a
right.
We feel sorry for you for leaving somebody in free agency. I'll get to Chase Young in a bit here, but just to finish out the game,
yeah.
I thought the Jermaine Pratt play was incredible on in the red zone. That was just a great defensive play. And then Purdy is going through struggles right now. He's a young quarterback, and yes, I agree with you, Steven. I think everyone needs to be healthy for this team to be an offensive juggernaut. And he's had it fairly easy because he's had those pieces and he's had Kyle, helping him out. And I think Kyle's struggling too. I think the whole team's struggling. They're going through a 3-game skid. Let's not act like they didn't have that last year. They lost opening day to the Bears, and they lost to the Broncos. They lost to the Falcons. Those 3 teams did not make the playoffs last year.
Did they start 3-5?
That was in 2021.
Damn.
Yeah. So they're going through a little lull right now. They don't, and also I'll say this, they don't need home field advantage to go and win the Super Bowl. They'll be fine. If they can win the division and get to the playoffs, they'll be just fine. I'm not worried about that. But what I am worried about, I'll be completely honest here, what I am worried about, and this was also the worry I had before the season. Now, at times, he made me more confident that he can handle this. But as the season has been going on, I do wonder about having the Super Bowl caliber roster and having Brock Purdy be your quarterback. Because when it's all on his shoulders at a very young age, it's risky. The same thing with Jake Moody. You're relying on a very inexperienced kicker to make those kicks to win you games in the postseason. You're also relying on a very inexperienced quarterback. Is he going to go toe-to-toe with Jalen Hurts? Or, we're all thinking the defense is going to save the day for him. But I don't think those days of Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson are going to help out Brock Purdy. He's got to play well, too. So I will say I have a little trepidation. I think they're going to be fine as far as a playoff team. But I would be a little uneasy about them being a Super Bowl team with what I've seen with Brock Purdy so far.
I'd say I still question what would happen in the 4th quarter. To me, that's where they've lost every playoff game that they've lost. Sans last year, because obviously that game was lost in the first because Brock Purdy was out on the whatever second drive of the game or second play of the game. But think about it. Super Bowl, 4th quarter. 2021 NFC Championship against the Rams, it was the 4th quarter. This game, the 4th quarter. Like, is it going to be the same as it's always been, where it's the 4th quarter? And I don't know if you saw that stat that I retweeted, but Shanahan being 0-37 when his team is trailing by 8 points in the 4th.
Yep.
No wonder that he's blaming Steve Wilks, is because Kyle Shanahan's trying to cover his own ass, knowing that his defense has to give him a lead, or else he's in trouble, because the way that his offense is set up, they're not built to come back. They're built to run drives like they did when they made it a 1-score game, where it's like a 10-play drive, 75 yards, takes a bunch of time off the clock. Like, that's what they're built for. So I think that's where my trepidation comes from. And I had a random thought. And is this anyone else? Is this like with anyone else? But I saw this, and I know we're about to get to the trade, but I saw this on the graphic, and it was Chase Young's about to join a stacked defense, and they put Talanoa Hufanga on there. Has Talanoa Hufanga been underperforming? Just doesn't feel like he's been making as many explosive plays as he was his All-Pro season last year.
He definitely made plays a season ago, but I even wonder about him being an All-Pro last year.
Right.
Because he's in the right position at times, and he makes Troy Polamalu plays, but
it just doesn't feel like we've seen that many of them this year.
Not this season. I would say the whole secondary has not been playing well, with the exception of Travarius Ward here or there. Diamador Lenore, for the most part, not great. And that's really been their Achilles heel as far as the defense. I'll also say this. The Niners defensively have had their struggles against the elite of the elite when it comes to quarterbacks, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's why that was my biggest criticism going into the season was, will they be able to stop a Josh Allen or a Joe Burrow or a Patrick Mahomes? Their defense is capable of doing that, but can you do it for a full 4 quarters and rely on your quarterback to go score for score if they need to? They've definitely shut down Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Obviously, Tom Brady a season ago. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers during the regular season and the NFC Championship game and that playoff game. But against who I think are the 3 best quarterbacks of football right now, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, they're 0 for 4, I want to say. Yeah, 2 the Super Bowl regular season game, Josh Allen 2020, and Joe Burrow. They actually beat Joe Burrow a couple years ago, but you get my point. They have struggles against the mobile young quarterbacks in today's elite quarterbacks. So I'm not saying things are gloom and doom for the Niners. I think it's far from that. But I'm going back to my preseason thoughts that maybe Brock Purdy, maybe this is a lot for him this early in his career.
We've gone very negative on the Niners from this game, but we got to point out, good God, Joe, like, we haven't even mentioned like how good Joe Burrow looked. Like, dude, God damn, that guy he is just unreal.
That's what I'm saying. Is like the best defenses today will struggle against the best quarterbacks. So that's why I'm saying, everyone, to quote, I forget who said it back in the day on SNL. Oh, it was Sherry O'Terry. Simadana.
Dude, God, that throw that he made with Jamar Chase to the sideline where it was just a toe drag. Just only those two can make
toe drag swag.
Toe drag, dude. And when I was listening to that first quarter, with your dad, it was vintage Greg, because I love seriously, like your dad, like obviously the touchdown calls and all that. I think he's the best. I freaking like. Maybe it's just because of my affinity with the Raiders, but I just think he's the best. And when he has those moments like he did in the first drive where Burrow's almost sacked, just his reaction, how'd he get out of that? It's so good, dude. It's so good.
You mean to tell me the Niners are not going to sack him? That's impossible. The Niners are the best team of all time. Tell him, T-Rock.
He was in Bosa's grasp and he got out of it. How'd he do that, Tim? I don't know.
You telling me that big brain Brock is going to throw a pick here? He doesn't throw picks. This is inexcusable, inconceivable even.
Just he's all like when he's surprised, and just it's the best. It's the best.
He's very surprised when the Niners lose. I'll tell you that. What was not surprising, in my opinion, was the trade for Chase Young, because Steven, haven't I been saying it since the summertime, that potentially the Niners could be in the mix with those 3 compensatory picks, so they could get a Chase Young, a Montez Sweat, or even a Danielle Hunter. The Danielle Hunter one was kind of a pipe dream, but I wasn't surprised with Chase Young. I think it's a great move. It really cost you nothing. It was a compensatory pick. They got Chase Young. He's going to be on the defensive line with Nick Bosa. I really see no risk in this, and he's cheap. Probably we'll see what happens, but when you have a young quarterback that doesn't make a lot of money, you can finagle things with the cap, but I think it's going to be tough with everything going on next season. Brandon Ayuk do a deal. that they can afford to bring him back. So this is for the here and now. This is for them to win a Super Bowl by adding Chase Young.
Dude, him and Nick Bosa barely played at Ohio State. I totally forgot that Bosa hurt himself in 2018.
18, yeah.
So they didn't really play alongside each other all that much. Good God, they're going to be a formidable defensive line. But, like, it's absolutely a win now move.
100%.
Because the future, like the defensive line of the future is in question. You know, like right now you got, I mean, what's Armstead's contract at? I don't even know where that's at.
It's getting there. He's due a lot of money next season.
It's going to be in its last year next season.
I want to say the Niners, I think we went over it when the Bosa deal went down, that they're going to have maybe 5 or 6 guys that are due $20 million next year.
So, like, you're probably not going to pay Young next year. And another thing, it's an indictment on just the fact that Drake Jackson hasn't played as well as he should.
Yeah.
Like, they got a bunch of depth, sure, but, like, you know, when I'm just hearing, like, all these names, like, oh, you can bring Jake Jackson, you could rotate Cleveland Ferrell, and you can rotate Randy Gregory in there. Yeah, they got a lot of depth along the D-line, but how much of those guys can actually just go in like a Charles Omenihu and just play limited amounts of snaps and then impact the game right away? Can Cleveland Ferrell do that? Maybe. He's done it a couple of times, but Drake Jackson, I don't know. Like, do these guys need it? Like Randy Gregory, he played at his best, but when he was playing every snap and he was a starter, like, can he play at his best when he's just a role player? I don't know. But this move is awesome. Good God. Chase Young is just so good, so quick, so strong. They're Erdy's with the back to the whole stunts thing along the defensive line. Well, Chase Young specializes in stunts, so you're going to see a lot more of those probably on the right side of the line, and they're going to hope to get Nick Bosa a lot more one-on-one. But it is, you know what? That's also what it comes down to too. Nick Bosa just has to play better. You know, even if you have this strong defensive line right now, Nick Bosa hasn't been one of the best defensive linemen in the league like he normally is. So you need that elevated style of play from him, because that's where he's the engine that makes that. God, that defensive line is looking like a freaking Porsche right now, like a Porsche 911 or a Porsche 911. Dude, they're freaking crazy. So,
no, I mean, they should. They're right up there now with the Eagles as far as depth, but it needs to happen. Like as John Lynch said today, this isn't a move to just fix everything. It improves the defense. It should on paper, but there's a lot of shit that needs to go down. Like when you see the names, Bosa, Chase Young now, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw coming off the bench. You got, obviously, the young guys that you mentioned, Cleveland Ferrell, Drake Jackson, Randy Gregory. They should be a formidable defensive line, but it needs to happen. It needs to, they need to be the 49ers defensive line of 2019. Now, I ask you, Steven, compared to that defensive line that had D Ford, what defensive line is better now on paper?
Well, that defensive line that had D Ford had DeForest Buckner at the same time too, right?
Yes.
I'd probably say that one, because DeForest Buckner he was unbelievable that year.
Okay. So, but it's close, would you say?
Oh, yeah. No, I'd say it's close, but DeForest Buckner changed everything.
But even with that defensive line that was better in 2019, got blocked in the Super Bowl. They had pressures. I don't know what the sack numbers were in the Super Bowl itself, but the reality is when the Niners got blocked, then their secondary got torched. What are you laughing about?
Ernie, just the D Ford looks good thing. That is just such an inside morning roast drop. Oh my God. Yeah. One time Bonte was convinced from like one training camp practice that D Ford looked good. And then he like whispers,
short-lived.
D Ford looks good. It's just like, it was very short-lived because he ended up like getting hurt or whatever.
Hardly played with the Niners.
That's one of my favorite drops that I ever made. D Ford looks good.
All I'm saying is, yes, this should help with the defensive line. But if the defensive line is not getting to the quarterback, I think it's the same kind of deal in 2019 where the secondary can be exposed. They can go after Charvarius Ward. They can go after Diamador Lenore. So you better hope that defensive line gets there, because while the secondary is fine, it has its holes. I think it could be
Yeah.
the same recipe that ultimately does not lead to a Super Bowl that the Niners faced in 2019.
Yeah. No, I did think they missed out on that trade in that department.
Getting a corner.
Yeah, the whole Adoree Jackson report seemed to be just total BS. I don't think that was true.
That was.
I think they missed out on potentially getting Jalen Johnson. They probably offered one of those third-round compensatory picks, but the Bears were probably looking for maybe higher than that, maybe a second or something.
Well, they wanted to replace that second they traded away to get Montez Sweat.
Yeah. So I have a feeling they went after him because why wouldn't they? Like, Jalen Johnson was right there for the taking, and I think he went to Fresno State or something. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a 49er fan.
Maybe a free agency pickup in the offseason, but
yeah.
he's gonna have to get paid top tier money.
The corners, they make plays, but they've struggled with penalties a lot.
They have
here. Even if they're wrong or not, there's some where they've totally just got jobbed on certain calls, but there's others where it's warranted. And the penalties, I think, didn't the Bengals have 0 in this last game?
Yes.
Yeah, they had 0, and the Niners had 5, so they're going to have to clean that up. But regardless of how it could impact the team in the playoffs, what we do know is they're going to be a damn fun watch moving forward. That 2019 team, I remember looking at that just I was every week it was something. And Jesse's kind of mocking me right now. Every week it was something with that defensive line. And with Chase Young, God,
yeah.
It's going to look like that Washington team they played in 2020 when, Chase Young was a rookie. And that defensive line just gashed them. It's insane.
Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they traded, 2 of those guys away, and, new owner in Washington, shit like that will happen. But, the Niners, they're going to get healthy off the bye too. They'll probably get Trent Williams back and Debo back when they go to Jacksonville, but also could be staring at another loss in the face because you're going to Jacksonville and playing a young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. So we'll see what happens.
Jacksonville officially in Stephen A. Smith's top 5 NFL teams now that they've just been on a little winning streak, by the way.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah.
That's high praise.
Yeah, you might as well chalk it up for a loss as a loss for the 49ers if you're on.
Might as well chalk it up to a Super Bowl win when Stephen A. Smith is saying that they're the number 1 team in his whatever rankings. Oh, that's
totally agree.
Big deal. Other trades that went down. Montez Sweat. So when I saw this alert, I was like, and I had the same reaction as you, Stephen. Huh?
Oh.
Now, initially, yes, I was like, that's not sexy. The Bears suck, and they're worse than the Commanders, even though the Bears beat the Commanders. Now, when I replied to you on Twitter, when you said when the Bears traded away a second-round pick for Montez Sweat, my initial reaction was, well, they're going to sign him to a contract. That's why they're doing this. And nothing has happened since. And it's been a full day. To me, this move makes sense if they sign him long-term. If they don't sign him long-term, and this was just to get him in now, and he doesn't sign with them in the offseason, it's a bad move. Real bad move, because what's the point of this? You need second-round picks to make your team better. And right now, the Bears are, 2-5?
Yeah. I think they're 2-6, actually.
I'll confirm that.
My wasn't really directed at the Bears because it's a great move for the Bears. My question is, and you made a point, good teams just don't have the money to pay Montez Sweat, but that's where I just refuse to believe that. I think good teams have the space to do it. They're just not willing to put the work in to try and work out a deal. There's a reason that the 49ers have been able to make this team over the years. It's because of the way they've handled their contracts, restructuring deals, backloading deals, doing all these different things to open up salary space. I mean, Think about it. They just signed Nick Bosa to a $30 million a year contract, and somehow they got $40 million in cap space next year. Like, there's a way to finagle the salary cap to make room for it. So I think that was my bigger question for the Bears. Fantastic move, because there's not many pass rushers available. You're not going to be getting one, at least in free agency. You're not going to be getting one in the draft who can make as much of an impact right there. Plus, you could just pay him right away and then build right around that. God, if Justin Fields just hadn't regressed to a point where they need a new quarterback, like I'd be looking at this team like, oh, this is really, really solid move, especially with the Tremaine Edmonds and, who's the other one up the middle? TJ Edwards at linebacker. Like, okay, they're building something here. Keep Jalen Johnson. Okay, they're building something here, but Justin Fields, that kind of went out the window, but it's a necessary move.
Yeah, like I said, if they sign him, like if it was just like what would have made more sense is if the other NFC North team, the Lions, trade for him without giving him a contract, because they could have done that. They have, I believe, second round picks. For whatever reason, the Bears made the best offer, and now they will see if they can re-sign him. But like I said, and you pointed it out, the good teams couldn't afford him to sign him to a long-term deal. So was this all about just Montez Sweat finding a home long-term? If they don't sign him to the long-term contract, then this deal makes no sense to me. So I'm with you on that one, Steven. It all makes sense on the contract.
I think they are. I've seen reports that, well, I mean, they're obviously just reports, but Poles is working the phones. He's taking the polls of other teams. I don't know, whatever.
But I also read that Montez Sweat is going to, like, the fact that they didn't agree to a contract before they made this move makes me believe this might go sour. Because if they keep losing, then why the hell would he sign back with them?
What, did the Bears trade a second rounder for Chase Claypool? Right?
Exactly. Yeah, they did. Other moves, as always, the NFL trade deadline, with the exception of a few moves here or there,
stunk.
Exactly. No Derrick Henry trade, and that was kind of since the Will Levis start, he looked great.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to try to see what they got with him and keep Derrick Henry, and also he makes a lot of money, and I don't think any team wanted to pay that much money for Derrick Henry.
Will Levis must listen to Creed, huh?
What, he's the new Kirk Cousins now? Kirk Cousins out for the season?
Nah, he's just playing at a very high level in his rookie debut. I just think he must listen to Creed, because everyone who listens to Creed, well, one of them just won the World Series, and the other one
tore his Achilles.
Yeah, he tore his Achilles.
Too bad for Kirk Thuggins.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of time with Coop at the bonfires now, Steven.
Oh, man, so much time with Coop. It's a good bonfire there, Coop.
How we looking here? What's the Warriors score? We're down by 71-72.
They just cut the deficit, man. Steph Curry
will most likely get off here by the fourth quarter, so everybody can enjoy the thrilling end of this game. But just to go through the other trades, Rasul Douglas goes to the Bills. That needed to address the quarterback position with Tre'Davious White going out for the season. Good move, solid move. Josh Dobbs, plays well for the Cardinals on Sunday, then gets benched for Clayton Thune, potentially Kyler Murray coming back. And then with the injury to Kirk Cousins, they're like, all right, you got a new home, which makes sense. But, geez, he just got there. He feels like he's just like the emergency quarterback for every team now.
Did you think at any point that maybe Trey Lance would go to the Vikings? I thought it was going to happen.
I thought it was going to happen in the preseason.
Yeah. I thought I was like, oh, that opened the door. I think Lance might get his shot here.
I thought they want more of an experienced quarterback at 4-4.
Yeah. No doubt. But Josh Dobbs, that's the nicest quarterback room in the NFL now. Josh Dobbs is such a good dude. Kirk Cousins, damn.
Yeah.
Damn, if you want to feel good, just going to the Vikings quarterback room, it's just everyone's there so nice.
Nice people.
Friendly.
And then finally, the move the day before the deadline that I thought was really big was Leonard Williams going from the Giants to the Seahawks. And I was like, well, he must know Pete Carroll from the USC days. And I was like, he's not that old. You think about it, Pete Carroll's been with the Seahawks for a long-ass time. So he didn't coach him, but he knows him, and he's going to be on that defensive line now. I think that's a really big move for them because right now they're leading the NFC West. We'll see for how much longer, but big move for the Seahawks.
Even though it was a boring trade deadline, in the grand scheme. At least, I thought some AFC teams would be making a little more moves, but these are the ones that did make moves. These are the teams that I expect to be contending in the playoffs coming towards the end of the postseason. Like I expect some sort of variation with the Niners, the Eagles, and I think the Seahawks can go pretty far. Seahawks just always seem to pick it up in the later stages of the year. Pete Carroll's itching to get back. I'd be very interested to see another 49ers Seahawks playoff game, see how they respond. I mean, they still have to play the Seahawks this year. That'll be interesting.
Thanksgiving Day.
I mean, dude, Aaron Banks being out, that's a pretty big loss there for the next few weeks with turf toe. I don't know who's going to back him up at left guard, but no, I like the fact that these three teams actually upgraded, and it seems like they're poised to make a run to the postseason here. Like, I'm surprised the Cowboys didn't bother to make any moves. It's like you lost Trayvon Diggs. I know Deron Bland was awesome last week. Deron Bland was fantastic against the Rams.
3 picks on the season.
Yeah, crazy. He was awesome, but I thought they'd want to make some sort of move, something.
I thought that they would be in a pass rusher market, but with who was available, no one wants to. I mean, like the Vikings weren't going to give up Danielle Hunter despite what. Like it was an interesting situation with the Vikings winning but losing Kirk Cousins. It'd be interesting for their GM, who I can never pronounce his name. I apologize. It'd be an interesting move for him to decide, okay, do we keep going with the team that we have, or do we start selling and trading away Danielle Hunter? And they stayed pat and kept him. So yeah, it's interesting. The Cowboys were talking about. Derrick Henry was not going to get moved because of the salary reduction he would have to take. So yeah, interesting. The Cowboys didn't make any moves, but after their performance against the Rams, don't think they needed to. I think they're figuring things out right now. And we'll go now do a little quick hits, really quick hits.
Ooh,
it's just around the NFL from Week 8. Will Levis got an arm, threw bombs in that game, and DeAndre Hopkins looked very good, looking like his old self once again. Desmond Ridder struggled, and I think they're making the right move going to Taylor Heineke for the future with the Falcons and for the here and now. So, not going to say yet that Will Levis, looks amazing, but he did look great in his debut. But we'll see how long that lasts. I think he was just chunking it deep and kind of playing free, and the Falcons didn't know what to look for with him. So, we'll see what happens, and we'll see how he performs against the Pittsburgh Steelers tomorrow.
That was so sick when he rolled out to the right hash and just pah. It's only 44 yards, but that ball looked like it traveled 9,000.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if Will Levis could, connected with Devontae Adams and some nice passes. But then again, he's afraid of mayonnaise.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, he likes mayonnaise in his coffee. He's afraid of milk.
So
and he eats bananas whole with the peel
defensive
on.
line, make sure you bring out a little mini carton of milk and just throw it in his face.
Ooh. 2%. Jaguars are legit. Even though they didn't put much offense up, and I know they're playing the Steelers, who don't have a lot of offense these days. I was thoroughly impressed with their win, and they've won 5 in a row now. They're 6-2.
Mm-hmm.
They could be in the discussion for 2 seed, 3 seed. We'll see what the Ravens do and the Bengals do and the Chiefs do, but they're right there now. They're right there, man. They're winning impressive games on the road and at home. They're right there with the AFC's best right now.
I haven't watched many Jaguars games, if I'm going to be 100% honest. Like, they've just won, but they had that crazy play. I love the design of it, where it's like they lined up Travis Etienne out wide, and just Trevor Lawrence made this just quick touch pass down the sideline, and he said he's never made a pass like that. It's just interesting how they ran that play. I love that.
No, innovative offense with Doug Peterson. They're going to be in a good position going forward. Like, not worried about the days of old with Urban Meyer for that first season. What else did I have here? Kirk Cousins' injury sucks. In all reality, no jokes aside and everything.
Yeah,
that sucks because the Vikings were playing good football. Could have been in the mix as a playoff team. I think it's going to be really hard now. Jordan Addison, coming into his own, probably the leading candidate for offensive rookie of the year right now. And they're doing this without Justin Jefferson, and he'll be coming back pretty soon. Really sucks that he got injured. That honestly, like you talking about how nice of a guy we've all seen Kirk Cousins be in the quarterback show, and for him to tear his Achilles and have to go through that whole process, it really sucks considering his future with the Vikings as well, because we may not see him again with them. So
Yeah,
that sucked.
and his future in the freaking NFL, man. It's like when Rodgers got hurt, everyone was saying this is the toughest injury to come back from. And, Rodgers is 38 or whatever. And Kirk's, he's no spring chicken, as the saying goes. He's 35, going to turn 36 in March. Like, I hope he's okay after that. He's so tough too. He doesn't get talked about enough for just how tough he is and how many hits he can take. Don't let that nice persona fool you. I actually just Googled Kirk Cousins, and New York Post, one of the headlines was what Aaron Rodgers told Kirk Cousins after his brutal Achilles injury. Wonder if that had anything to do with dolphin sex.
Probably a great deal of it.
Mm-hmm. He had to. He was joking, right? Listen to that, and then that helps you heal.
No. Believe me. Sometimes you think that he's joking. He's dead ass serious.
Damn.
Yeah. Can you imagine if Coop's like, Dad, we listened to was another Kirk or Creed CD? No, son. Just listening to the sweet sounds of.
Stop it.
Dolphin fucking.
Stop it. Move on. Next quick hit. What do you got?
Remember Dolphin Lover? Malcolm? Guy that went on my dad's show twice. I didn't ask the money question, Derek.
The guys on the text chat do. I don't.
His name was Dolly. Hello, Dolly. All right. Finishing up here. Cowboys look real dominant at home. Like every home game they've had this year, they've just kicked ass. They get defensive touchdowns. Micah Parsons wrecking havoc. Deron Bland, as we said earlier, making pick sixes. Dak Prescott looking really good. Brandon Cooks finally catching a touchdown. Conversation now is that the Cowboys, even though they got embarrassed and humbled by the 49ers, they look pretty good now. And we'll see what happens this week when they play the Eagles. And as Micah Parsons put it, we got humbled by the Niners, and now the Niners are getting humbled. Whatever. But reality is the Cowboys look good.
There is this play where, I just love the way Dan Quinn is able to use Micah Parsons in so many different areas. There was one sack that he had where they basically lined him up as a middle linebacker going for a blitz. And what they did was they took the guards and the tackles and they forced them to basically create this hole. It was like they parted the Red Sea for Parsons to go one-on-one with the center, and he just gives him a little swim move. Swim move out of the way. Got to Stafford. I was really impressed with that one play. The Cowboys look good, but I don't believe in them until I don't believe in them until they actually prove me wrong in the playoffs. I'll never believe in them.
That's fair. Eagles might be the best team in football now. With even though they've allowed
swim move, AJ.
It's impressive. Even though the Eagles have allowed 31 points to the Commanders in each of their games, they beat them each time. And despite them having the best record of football at 7-1, I feel like they still haven't had a complete game on both sides of the football. The week before, they played really well defensively against the Dolphins, so offensively. This week, they played great offensively with 4 touchdowns from Jalen Hurts, so effort on defense. They're figuring things out with Kevin Byard in the secondary. They're interesting. And I think they're kind of coasting right now. They're playing their best football, but not a full 60 minutes of football, despite them having the best record.
To me, they have the best wide receiver in the league. God, A.J. Brown is just so damn good.
Better than Tyreek Hill?
I'd take him over Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I'd take the power and speed. I don't know. It's a toss-up, but I'd personally take A.J. Brown just because of his size. I feel like he could beat anyone. We've seen Tyreek Hill. He's put up over 1,000 yards quicker than anybody in the Super Bowl era through 8 weeks. How am I supposed to, downplay with that? But I personally would take A.J. Brown. And you know what? As part of that game, got to give credit to Sam Howell. Sam Howell played a hell of a football game. That one I had my eye on more than a lot of them in the morning slate. I don't know why. It was just a very compelling game. Sam Howell looked very impressive.
No,
Like,
he has.
woo. And I think that what's vulnerable and where I think the Eagles can get gashed is in that secondary, because that secondary just has not been in sync all year. Like holes that are wide open on the field. Like, what's the saying that, the simple saying is like, wherever there's green, go to that spot. Like if there's a soft spot in the zone or whatever, and there's always seems to be a soft spot in the zone with the Eagles. I don't know what it is with that defense, but they just haven't figured it out.
Yeah, agreed. And then lastly, probably the most impressive win over the weekend, in my opinion. Still working on your swim moves?
Yeah.
It's really, really effective when you hit the microphone too. The Broncos beating the crap out of the Chiefs, ending their losing streak since 2015. Can you name the last head coach that beat the Chiefs as a Broncos head coach, Steven?
2015?
Yes.
Todd Haley. I don't know.
For the Broncos?
No, he was the Chiefs.
Think about when they won the Super Bowl. It was that season. He was there briefly.
Dude, who was that?
Otis Bird's got it.
Gary Kubiak. Good
Yep.
God, man.
Last coach to beat the Chiefs.
Wow.
Yep.
Good call.
And Patrick Mahomes couldn't do his best Michael Jordan impression, having the flu, but still very impressive. Defensively, they're getting things turned around with Vance Joseph, and don't look now, but Russell Wilson's actually having an okay season with the Broncos. So while we were quick to say, oh, Sean Payton sucks, this whole defense sucks, Russell Wilson sucks, they're going to trade away Jerry Jeudy, we'll see here. They're building something. We'll see.
Yeah. That's all I got.
I know, because you want to stick with that he's overrated talk.
Well, it doesn't really help my case when they win. So
exactly,
I can't really. I mean, come on. Patrick Mahomes had the flu. Travis Kelce's at a World Series game 2 nights before. Like, come on, man.
Oh yeah, that was a big deal.
Huge deal. Total distraction to the team, as far as I'm concerned.
Who brought that up? Shan Sharp.
Yeah.
Whatever, dude. He's talking about distractions to teams. The guy that went on the court during a Lakers-Memphis Grizzlies game?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He wants his restitution.
Not bad. All right. That's what I got for tonight. We covered it all. We'll talk about the Warriors on Saturday's show. And we'll talk about the James Harden trade to the Clippers, see how that impacts the West. And we'll talk about the Killers of the Flower Moon. You saw it on Saturday, right, Steven?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Saw that, went out on Saturday night to Halloween, saw the movie, and Jesse and I had already planned to dress up as Ross and Rachel from Friends. And then, yeah, right? Then we learned after the movie of the news about Matthew Perry, rest in peace. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. That hit home for me because, like,
could that be any more awkward?
Yes, exactly. Like, could this be any worse timing? Like, I don't know. That one really hit me because I'm a huge Friends fan, and I know like a lot of people, it's not a very popular show within like the sports radio world. A lot of people make fun of it, but it had a huge impact on me growing up. And Chandler was just like, I don't know. He was like, I based like my sense of humor off of him when I was younger, like just the sarcastic kind of self-deprecating, all that. Like, I don't know. That was, so it really hit home when that happened. But yeah, we ended up still going and, dressing up as Ross and Rachel or whatever. And then it worked out okay. And people were like, no, you're honoring him. It's fine. But at the same time, we were on our way down. Like, geez, this might not be good.
Yeah, very sad news about Matthew Perry. I will say that while I was never a Friends fan, I saw from time to time. He was funny on it. I loved him in the movie, The Whole Nine Yards. Also a very underrated movie that people forget about with Chris Farley, Almost Heroes. He was hilarious in that. So rest in peace to Matthew Perry. And you make a good point, Stephen. In the sports radio business community, no one talks about Friends. It's always Seinfeld or other 90s sitcoms, but people just, I don't know, people didn't watch Friends like
it's fine.
that
Like,
watch sports.
I don't blame people. I don't blame people for that. Like Friends can be a really corny show, but it was also like I thought it was really well written, really well done. It's just something I grew up with, and yeah, I don't know. Matthew Perry was my favorite character on there. Chandler Bing, and I remember watching some behind the scenes thing where you're like literally watching him improv with the writers onto how to make like just a joke better, just different things like that. I was like, he was a true like comedic actor, just great at what he did. And shout out to Rock New Era. Rachel was always cold. Damn right about that one. Always cold in the spaghetti straps. What's that? Anyway.
I'll say this too. Matthew Perry has a great SNL sketch where he's teaching a course as a professor on sarcasm.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Yep.
On that note, will everybody enjoy this fourth quarter with the Warriors? They're currently up 81-79, so we'll see how this game finishes out. We'll talk a little more basketball on Saturday. Talk about the Warriors, Steph Curry's hot start to the season. Don't know how he's performing tonight, but he's playing very well before tonight. Let's see what his numbers are actually before.
He's killing it tonight.
What's he got? He's got. Oh, this is not updated. Hold on. Sorry. He's got 14 points. Yeah, it's still pretty good.
Not killing it, but anytime I've looked up, it just feels like I've seen him make a three falling over. Also, shout out to Joe Thornton. He officially announced his retirement, and I don't think we give Thornton enough credit in the same way that Curry was. Like Thornton never took a night off. Like every night, this dude was impacting the game some way. Like always one of the best players on the ice. And that's all you can really ask for. We don't really talk about him enough in the Bay Area because hockey's just not that popular of a sport. Yeah. And I guess it is, but not when it comes to like talking about the greatest athletes of all time. I think Joe Thornton's right up there among the greatest Bay Area athletes. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for what he was doing night in, night out, just because he wasn't scoring any goals. He was always creating just such a big body on the ice. Shout out to him.
Could have said it better myself, Steven. Well done. Yes, Joe Thornton. Congrats on a Hall of Fame career. Hall of Fame career, would you say?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Shows how much you know about hockey. Everybody enjoy the rest of the Warrior game. Congrats to Bruce Bochy winning his 4th World Series. And we will keep tabs on what goes on with the Raiders and their search for new leadership. Thanks, everybody, on the chat tonight. We had a great group of people coming through tonight. All the Ernies, Otis Bird, AJ Cruz. I think we had who else was in here? We had Skills for a little while, of course, Aram. So thank you guys always for coming on each and every show. Steven, say what you always say.
It's just our opinion. Man.